Helga Norbert's Anna and Enrico Khan onto the show today. They are all Holocaust survivors. First, we have Helga Norbert. She's an Aryan German who lived in Budapest, Hungary, but moved to Munich, Germany as an adult. She was put into Auschwitz for helping the Cohn twins during the Holocaust.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you helping me spread my story of the inhumanity that happened in Germany.
Of course. So we know you tried to help the Cohn sisters. Can you explain to us that situation?
Of course. I lived in Budapest, Hungary. I grew up with the twins. I treated them basically like my daughter. Her family and my family were very fond of each other. When the Germans invaded Budapest in early year of 1944, all I could think of was the Kahn family. What was going to happen to them? Were they going to survive? All these questions were going through my head.
Yes. And how did you ever find where the girls were?
I decided to go back to Budapest after I lived in Miskolc, Germany. It's northeast of Budapest, so it's not very far. But I arrived in Budapest on June 23rd, 1944. At the time, I was 20, free, and I was able to move around. When I arrived there, I was surprised that the twins were still alive because I went back to their house and they were still living. Very struggling though. The Hungarians took the parents of the twins and one day took their sister while they were out grocery shopping. To this day, their fate still arises.
So, that's very interesting how the girls stayed in the same house they grew up in as young girls. Well, I would like to introduce the Cohn twins, the Cohn sisters, Anna and Enrico, today. Yes, it's nice to have you all. So, Anna, Miss Roberts told us that she found you guys in your house with no other relatives but each other. Remain.
Yes, the Hungarians took my parents and my younger sister Emily. We were fortunate to not be home that day.
I understand that. So, after you saw Miss Norbert in Budapest, what did you all do?
Me and my sister took what we could and left with her bag to Munich. That it wasn't easy at all, but in the end we did arrive. there.
And what were some of the obstacles faced on the journey, Enrico?
Well, we couldn't speak because we did not know German. And also we had to wrap up our brown hair because it would show that we were Jews. We had no food for the day's journey, only the bread that we took from our own home that day. But of course we could not complain because it was better than being dead.
So, yes, after you arrived in Munich, how did Miss Norbert hide you?
Well, she took us into her attic in her home. It was not large, but it worked for the both of us. It was about the size of half a bedroom, but we were content. She would provide us water and food on a limited basis to avoid anyone from knowing we were in her attic. At the time, we were 17, so not being hydrated or fed caused us to become ill.
And who were you trying to hide them from, Miss Norbert?
Well, I had two German neighbors, both of which had a hatred for Jews. I did live alone at the time, no husband or anything, but my sister and my parents did live quite close. A few times, my neighbors had been curious of why I didn't come outside and I didn't explore. And I just told them that I was sick and I didn't want to contain them with the illness that I contained.
I remember just like it was yesterday. It was November 15th, 1944, and I was suffering from a serious illness called spotted fever. And spotted fever is the most severe tick-borne grid-scale illness and is caused by an infection with the bacterial organism Rickettsia attacking the immune system. I could not eat or sleep nor even move around in that small space in the attic. And suddenly I heard footsteps, and thinking it was Miss Norbert, I got excited. I thought she was bringing us water and food because her ration was finished. But the next thing I know, I was being pulled out of the attic and me and my sister were being dragged out by SS officers downstairs outside the cabins.
So, what was going on downstairs, Miss Margaret?
Well, I was on my sewing machine when the twins were in the attic. I heard a knock at my door, and to my surprise, there was an SS officer standing right in front of me. He asked me if I was hiding any juice, and of course, me being the protective person that I am, I said no, knowing the consequences that were going to happen protecting the twins. Next thing I knew, he slapped me across my face, barging his way into my home. Later, I found out that my neighbor told him that I went to the attic bringing food and water and coming down the stairs.
What happened after that? What happened next?
Well, the three of us were dragged out of the house and put onto the street, and we were told to stand in a line and not move. If we moved, we were shot or killed.
We were told to march at first, then to run until we got to the caverns. They took all the other kids' belongings and checked each of us. Then they piled us 80 to a car.
The next 4 days were extremely endless. It felt like eternity that we were waiting in these cars, and our fate was just determining us. November 20th, 1944, we arrived at Auschwitz and realized it may be the end for all three of us. We decided to stay together no matter what.
The smell was awful, and the sight was even worse. They were yelling something in German that me and Anna could not understand. We asked Miss Norbert what they were saying, and they were telling us to get into two separate lines, one for men and one for women and children.
We saw Dr. Mengele, who asked us if we were twins. Of course, we said yes, not knowing why he asked. He told us to go separate away from the others. That is when we separated from Miss Norbert and never saw her until years later. He had such a friendly smile on his face. We thought he was not going to harm us, but he was going to be nice. He gave us some candy and clean clothes.
It was nice to you?
Yes, in the beginning he was very friendly, until he started his experiments. He led us into a building filled with malnourished children. We saw children laid out on lab tables being experimented on, and in the corners of the building, we saw twins locked in cages, crying and praying.
Wow. And Miss Norbert, what was going through your head at this time? How did you escape the gas chambers?
I escaped the gas chamber because I was Aryan and German. I also looked strong and healthy to work in the labor camps, but I was so confused and scared for myself and for the twins. I didn't know what was gonna become of us, or if I would ever see them again, nor survive.
Amazing. So ladies, explain to me the few months that you spent in Auschwitz.
Well, we were experimented on like animals, us and other twins ranging in ages.
For us in particular, Dr. Miguel examined us thoroughly, and some of the examinations were very painful. We were put in the shower and told to come out nude, and that's when they photographed us.
The experiments they tried on me were supposed to solve war injuries. They injected a disease into me to see how I would react. I'm not even sure which disease they injected into me because, according to the doctors, we did not need to know what was happening to our own bodies. I reacted badly to the disease, and I had to have my arm amputated. But thankfully, in January, we were saved.
They did the same for me. The point of it was to see if our bodies would react differently, and of course they did. I'm not able to move my left arm anymore, and will never be able to move it. My arm was scheduled to be amputated, but the camp was liberated 2 months after we arrived. So we were allowed to leave alive, unlike many other twins that we were with.
Yes, we were very lucky because we later found out that once the experiment ended, the twins would be killed to have a post-experiment autopsy. The day after Dr. Mengele amputated my arm, that was the last time I ever saw him. He had fled Auschwitz when he got news of the Soviet army coming closer. 4 days after that, the camp was liberated by the Soviet army.
That sounds so terrifying. But I heard that the people who experimented on had it easier than the people in the labor camps. Miss Norbert, how do you feel about that?
I feel everyone in the camp had an equal amount of terror and hardship. We all went through it, some survived, some didn't. Yes, manual labor was hard, especially for the women who weren't healthy nor strong enough to do the labor. I lost 70 pounds in the past 2-month period and was very ill. We were not fed well nor treated well, and it was just living death.
So, can you explain the selections to me?
Yes, we lined up from identification number, and this was when me and the twins were separated once again. The SS officers sent me into the line and was leading to the gas chambers. They told us that we were taking a shower, but me, I'm German, I knew what it meant. I was terrified. I didn't want to die. I wanted to see the twins once more. Dr. Hans asked me if I was German, and I said yes, and knowing why he asked, I specifically said I was German competent. But I was taken out of the line and put into a line of labor camps. From then on, I was determined to reunite with the twins and save.
So, Miss Norbert, can you explain to us what happened in the concentration camp?
Well, first when I arrived in the concentration camp, they gave us our identification numbers, and it's permanently on, it's never going to go away. And then they examined you from head to toe, and they also shaved off my hair. And then they tortured every woman, and if they had kids with them, they separated them, and it was just a hard time, sorry. And then from then on, we just tried to survive. We didn't really give anything.
So I heard that the living conditions were really terrible. Can you explain?
Yes, the living conditions were terrible. We had a certain ration of food. We were lucky if we even got like a whole plate a day. It was very small. And then especially the sleeping conditions, we had multiple bunks in each block. And specifically, I was in block 12. And I just remember walking past block 11, which was the worst block of them all. And each night when my block went to go get the rest that we needed, we were like 4 to a bunk and 1 blanket per each. We didn't get to sleep on anything, no mattress, no hay, nothing. It was just wood and 1 blanket.
Great. Why was block 11 the worst block?
Block 11 specifically was designated to the higher class Jews. They were tortured, implemented for their views of political reasons. I just remember going there every day, watching hundreds and hundreds of Jews just executed right on the spot.
So, Aniko, did you guys have identification numbers too?
Yes, everyone in the camp got identification numbers, even the twins who were experimented on. As soon as we got our identification numbers, our names vanished. My number was A75701. I would still have the identification number because it was tattooed, but my arm was amputated.
My number was A75702. And I show you my number, but sadly, I lost movement to my left arm.
Yes, I understand. So, after liberation, how did you guys meet up again?
Well, it was not until the year of 1964. After the camp was liberated, Me and Anna fled from Europe and moved to the Americas. We did not want to risk such a thing again. When we felt comfortable enough, we returned to Budapest to see what was left of our home.
Little did they know that after liberation, I stayed in Europe, but moved to Italy and decided to visit Budapest also. It was a coincidence and luck that our paths crossed. We talked about how we survived and our experiences.
And how did you guys move on with life after the thing?
Well, it was very difficult. I look back on it every day and dread when we have to come to me or my sister, and I'm just thankful that I can speak on it today.
Yes, of course, it was very hard to get our lives back together with all the torment we had went through. It was hard to trust, hard to live without fearing the past. But as Anna said, we appreciate each new day we have, and we also appreciate being able to speak to you today to let the world know about the horrible things that happened so that it can never happen again.
And every day I try to make people realize that not long ago this torture happened. We are all living survivors and stand as advocates against inhumanity.
Thank you. Have a blessing in all three of you. And hope that one day we can all help you overcome. Thank you all.
Thanks so much.